Today's guest is Mary Blodgett. Mary owns the Near Death Experience and the Afterlife Facebook page. So if you guys are looking for more information about near-death experiences, then I recommend you check her page out. Now, Mary had a near-death experience where she experienced the unexpected, and today we're going to learn about it. Mary, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome.
Jeff, thank you for the invitation. I'm flattered.
All right, so my audience loves to hear about near-death experiences. So if you don't mind, can we start on the day that yours happened? And can you please tell us what happened?
Sure. First of all, I've had two near-death experiences, one at the age of 2, but I wasn't really aware until later in life that that's what it was. There was no reference to know as a 2-year-old that I was having a near-death experience. But the most significant near-death experience happened when I was 18. At that time, I had started working at a factory in the small town where I lived, and it was the factory was during the 70s, and it was mostly men, so they were forced to hire women. And back then, harassment was not only appropriate but encouraged. So here's this 18-year-old blonde girl going to work every day, and I was making a lot of money. So that was good. But harassment started, and it went on and on and on. Got to the point where I would go to work 15 minutes early, sit in the parking lot and cry, suck it up and go into the building and just take anywhere from 8 to 16 hours of harassment. And I just couldn't take that anymore. And my father had said, if you quit your job, and he was threatening me and saying terrible things to me. And I thought, how can there be a God or anything? What is the point of being alive? And of course, when you're 18, you're brilliant with your reasoning. So I decided that I would end my life. And from my mindset, what I thought was, when someone died, we just ceased to exist. We just did. Like a dead bird on the side of the street or a squished bug, we would be nothing. So didn't do it right away. I planned and plotted and collected different drugs and things that I could take. Finally, about 2 weeks passed. I did the cliche thing, went to a hotel and did not normally drink alcohol, but brought alcohol with me because I knew that would affect it. And went through the process over many hours of trying to process these drugs and not throw up and going through this whole thing so I would cease to exist. I had rented that room for 3 days, assuming that my body would be found long after the fact. However, I woke up, or at least I thought I woke up, in the ICU. But what woke me up was this loud ringing noise, like loud. And so I kind of looked around and I looked behind me, and I could see that there was a heart monitor and there was a green line across it. And I said to myself, the machine must be broken. But more importantly, I'm in big trouble because I think ending your life is against the law. So I'm feeling pretty good though. And I look out through the windows of the ICU and I can see a doctor and 2 nurses who are jumping up because they've also looked at the monitor on their end, and they come running into my room and they're messing with the wires and all this kind of stuff. And I trying to tell them it's okay that the machines are broken because I feel fine. I feel amazing. Like I just never felt better. But they're ignoring me. At least they think they're ignoring me. They're not making eye contact with me. And I thought, well, they're upset with me because here I am, this stupid kid who did this stupid thing. And that's their job is to save people. And I'm just wasting their time. But then all of a sudden, I start to rise from my bed. And I'm watching from above, maybe 5 or 6 feet above, I'm watching what they're doing. And I see that my body is still in the bed. And they're not messing with the wires in the equipment. the doctor is doing compressions. He's trying to save me. You drink. Anyway, at that point, when I understood what happened, and I thought to myself, oh, wait, I must be wrong. I was wrong. You don't cease to exist. Something's happening. At that second of understanding, another force beyond my own whipped me across the room and through the ceiling and into blackness, which became this tunnel, like this swirling tunnel. And the essence of who I was just rushing through this tunnel. And as I got out through the tunnel, there was a blackness there. And this is the part which is a little bit confusing because I know there is no time or space, but for argument's sake, let's say that farther away from me was a pinprick of light. And this pinprick of light, I somehow recognized, but I didn't know how. And as it got closer, or did it get bigger? I'm not sure. Let's say that it got closer. It paralleled an understanding that was washing over me, or it was almost like, I refer to it now as the release of this earthly amnesia that we have, where we don't remember what life and existence was before Earth. And all of that was starting to fall away as it got closer. And as it got closer, it resonated this beyond love, beyond compassion. I sometimes compare it to a grandfatherly love. Just, there was nothing I could have done wrong. It was just all loving, all loving. And I realized that I had a choice to be assimilated by that. But I stayed back somewhat. And I don't want to say that it talked to me. It's almost like it was a download of information telling me that I had to have a life review, or I had to experience my life up to that 18th year. And I was worried because I felt that I had been this bad person, which is odd because we wouldn't think an 18-year-old would be a bad person, but at the time. So almost instantaneously, but not almost linearly, I could see everything that I did, and I had to experience through the other person their feelings from everything I thought, everything I said, and everything I did. And not only that, it was that everything I thought, everything I said, and everything I did affected their outcome. And that we are connected in that way. And one of the incidents was when I was 4 and my brother was 5. He was always getting into trouble. I'm sure he would have been diagnosed with ADHD back then. He was starting a fire, but I went in the house and tattled. And since I was always the honest child of the 9 of us, my mother believed me, and he got in big trouble. But the point of that was, and I felt this tremendous guilt, but I got to feel the betrayal that he felt at 5. And I got to feel how that betrayal affected our relationship through our entire lives, and how it affected his outcome, and also what his outcome would have been had I not tattled in that way. So fast forward to this. So I have this life review, and I am told that I had chose to come to Earth at that time to do something, and I had not yet done that. So I could assimilate with the light if I wanted to and become one with it. Therefore, there would just be a blending. I would still exist, but not really. And one thing, and even though I'm going to say this, I am not someone who believes in reincarnation. I was told that this was my last time here. And if I chose not to go back, the thing I was supposed to do would not happen. And everybody I was to come in contact with, whether directly or indirectly, their paths would split, and become something completely different. So by not going back, I changed everyone. The other option was, as a co-creator, I had already apparently created a ceasing. And I was told, do not look at it. But in the area, there is a ceasing that you've created. And if you want to have the illusion of ceasing, you can cease. But this light was so intoxicating, better than chocolate, so intoxicating that I not only did not want to even look at that blackness and darkness, I wanted to be one with it. But again, I was reminded, you promised and you were going to do this thing. And so I chose to go back. My near-death experience did not involve any matter, did not involve any people that I knew in the past, I didn't have any experience like that other than this ethereal relationship with the all of everything. And I understood that I was a piece of, or a spark of that light of the all of everything. So I chose to come back. Coming back was amazingly painful. To be sucked out and being thrown back into my body and to experience the gravity and the density. It was the density, I think, that hurt the most. It was almost like a groaning pain of being back in my body. And now, even though I had all these drugs in my system, I'd been in a coma for 2 weeks. When I woke up, I was well. I was just well. No side effects. I was healthy. And what happened after that was that this child psychiatrist came in and he said, I know your family history. I know what's going on. And you're going to college. So that's what happened. But while I was in college, now I had this near-death experience back at a time where it wasn't popular. It's very popular now, but it wasn't something anybody knew about or talked about openly. So I kind of dismissed it a little bit. But while in college, I was taking a human development class, and the last chapter was on death and dying. And it was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and discussing the process of, and one part of it, just a couple chapters, introduced Dr. Raymond Moody, who had just written a book, Life After Life. And in that, they described a near-death experience, the tunnel, the dark, all of this stuff that happened. And I thought, oh my gosh, this really was real. And I knew that I had changed when I returned, but I wasn't sure that I wasn't positive that it was real, especially since I was so adamant that nothing existed after. But it changed who I was. And some of the bigger changes was that my electromagnetic field, they say, was off, is off. So at all times my phone will go out, my computers will go out, there are things that happen. But there's also, I have precognition. I've had some jewelry that turns gold on its own. There's just things that have changed about me. I know things about people. If I touch them, their life flashes before me. I can sense people's fears, which is why I pretty much stay by myself. I don't like to get wrapped up in people's fear. That's been the essence of the last 44 years of my life since this has happened.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Now, when you were on the other side and after you were shown your life review, and I believe you said you were told, you could either come to the light or you can go back and you haven't completed what you're supposed to be doing and stuff like that.
Right.
Was that a conversation with a being, or was that just some kind of knowingness, or who were you conversing with?
When I first had the near-death experience, and really up into the last 30 years, I referred to God's source as the knowing. I knew that it wasn't an object or a person, but that it was a source of energy. So I called it the knowing. And the reason I called it the knowing is that I started to have these incidences where I would get information beyond my own knowledge. One incident in particular, which was pretty dramatic, is I was married at the time and we had 2 little girls, and we were by the Great Lakes, and there was this field that went on for about a mile, and the girls were kind of antsy. And my husband said to them, girls, run to the beach. It's about a mile away, but just run through the fields. There's only a couple little bushes in the distance. You just run and we will meet you at the beach. And I heard the knowing say, no, stop. And typically I wouldn't hear a voice, but it was a panicked no, stop. Typically it's just a download of information that is beyond my understanding or my thought process. Anyway, I said to my husband, listen, I heard stop. And he goes, well, why? And I said, I don't know. We're just supposed to walk hand in hand. So we walked hand in hand far, about maybe a quarter of a mile. And we get up to what we thought were these little small green bushes. They were the tops of cedar trees. It was a 30-foot cliff. So our daughters would have jumped to their deaths just by running.
Wow. So
I've had that throughout my life where I've had warnings. Sometimes it's a download, and sometimes it's an anxious get up. And especially if I'm sleeping, get up, do this, do that. One time our basement was flooding and I heard, get up, grab towels. But typically I don't hear a voice.
So whatever you're hearing, are you hearing it in your own voice? No,
it's not a voice. I can't say it's a voice. And back to the question you asked me was during my NDE, it was not a voice. It was a knowing. It was an exchange, an instantaneous exchange, which made me feel, oh yeah, I know that. And that continued after. But there are many things that I get warned about that I can't say, oh yeah, I knew that.
Do you think that you've ever heard this voice before your NDE? And if you would have heard it without hearing your NDE, would you have trusted it?
I would have trusted it. And like I said, I had a near-death experience at 2 and didn't realize it. So there was already a connection. There was a connection that I had to the planet, to nature, not to people as much, but to that higher source. There was something there. Even though I rejected it at 18 and turned from that, whatever that was, there was always something there. And I always trusted. I trusted implicitly. I call it blind faith. When it says jump, I ask how high.
Can you quickly tell us what caused your NDE at 2 years old?
Yes. I was very ill, and they never really diagnosed me, but as a baby, I would start to hemorrhage from my nose, and like serious hemorrhaging to the point where I'd have to be rushed to the emergency room. And would you like me to describe that one as well?
Sure.
Okay. At this, as I mentioned before, we had 9 kids, and I was the baby of the family. The bleeding would get so bad that my siblings would line up in the hall. They'd lay me in the hall, and there'd be this brigade of washcloths trying to stop the bleeding. They'd be rinsing them, bringing them back. At this one time, I heard my father say, "This isn't stopping." So they scooped me up and rushed me to the hospital. I was laying on a gurney in the ER. And on the right side of me was this doctor, and he was trying to put a line in my arm. At that time, I didn't know it was a line, but it hurt. So he's putting this thing in, and the nurse is taking my face, and she's looking at me. She's distracting me, but I'm really tired. And she is saying, "Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. Just stay with me. Don't close your eyes. Stay with me. Stay with me." As a baby, I thought she was trying to stop me from sleeping. But in hindsight, she was trying to keep me present. The next thing I remember is that I am laying on a black gurney in a hallway. And I'm by myself, which is really odd. I don't understand it. I'm just there in the hallway. At the same exact time, I am with my father and my mother in a room with the doctor. And they are crying, but I don't know why. And I am hovering. But again, I have no point of reference. As a baby, you're always at that height anyway. People are carrying you, so I don't quite understand what's happening. The next thing I remember is they are crying and they're in the car. And then there's this silence between them. And I am floating between them and by the front seat. I'm like floating there, but I am also at home. I am in the doorway of the house, and my brothers are leaning folded arm against the kitchen cabinets. My oldest sister is sitting at the kitchen table with her head like this, and she's sobbing. My other sisters are sitting on the floor with my other little brother. They're upset about something, but I don't understand. Then all of a sudden, I'm back on the gurney again. And down this long hallway where there's a light, I see this man. And I recognize him, but I don't. And I was always the kind of baby that wouldn't go to strangers. But I recognized this person. And he was all kind of in white, and he came moving toward me, not really walking, but moving and smiling at me. And I sit up, or at least I think I'm sitting up, and my arms are reached up, and I am begging him with my mind, hold me, pick me up, take me with you, hold me. And he smiles this knowing smile at me, and he takes his fingers like this, and he pushes on me. And I was almost a pain to it. He pushed me. In hindsight now, what he was doing was pushing my soul back into my body. My soul was sitting up and my body was laying down, I guess. So he reconnected us. Then I don't remember anything except I woke up and my mother and my father were at my bedside. I was like in a crib, and they were laughing. They were joyful. And I started making noises, and that made them happy. And I'm sure now in hindsight that their baby was alive. Mm-hmm. So that was the very first one. I really didn't connect the dots until after my second NDE, when I started to question, and then I questioned an older sister. And because I remember coming home from the hospital and everybody was hush, hush. You're not supposed to talk about it. Don't talk about it. And so I questioned her, and she said, yeah, that is what happened. You did die, but we weren't allowed to say anything.
Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Did you carry that memory of that experience with you all your life, or did you have to go back and, after you had a second NDE, you go back and started remembering that?
I remembered it through my whole life. It is as clear now as it was when I was 60 years ago. Very clear. The difference is that after the second NDE, when I understood that things that I thought were one way, but really were another, I started to question, well, wait a minute, what about that? And what happened there? And that doesn't make sense. How come that happened? And so there was this questioning. And then, of course, then going to my siblings and confirming what had happened.
Did you ever figure out what your purpose was for this lifetime?
No, but I do ask.
You do ask.
And there is a common thread with the NDE years where we're homesick. And so every once in a while, I'm like, okay, now is this the thing that I'm supposed to do? And can I go now? I don't really want to go, but there's a wondering, because I think, okay, well, what is the thing? Is it the group? Which is why I started the group. I thought, well, I think we're supposed to do this. And so maybe that will affect the outcome of other people. Maybe that'll help people. Plus, I worked with the homeless in St. Louis. I thought, well, that is the thing. So I don't know. My life truly at this point is 100% a life of service. Well, okay, except I do art, but the majority, let's say 80% of my life is of service. And that's how I live.
Yeah, that's interesting. That must be a thing that you think about all the time is, all right, I'm supposed to affect all these people. Which way, how, and who?
Right. It is. It's, I consider it my job. It's my job. You know, there was a time where I would get up in the morning and just say to Source, let your thoughts be my thoughts, your words be my words, just show me what I need to do. Now I get up and I'm like, just show me. Just like let's do this. So, and I've had a lot of incidences where I just get up and do things that other people are like, I can't believe you did that. And I'd be like, I didn't have a choice. I was just to do that.
Do you talk about this experience with many people? And if so, how do they react to it?
I have told everybody along the way, and I don't care what people think. It's not my problem. You know, I've had a couple of people who were put back by it because it didn't blend with their religious beliefs. But I tell people, but I'm also careful because I was warned that there are only two realities. One reality is love. The other reality is fear. Fear grows upon itself. The more we engage it, the more it grows. And that I am not supposed to inflict fear on anyone, because with that, when I do that, then their fear grows. So I try not to be too judgmental, but I am human. So I really, really try and be careful about how I say things, so I'm not causing fear and anxiety in the people that I'm telling. If that answers the question. Right.
Besides that, do you have any other after effects from this that you have to manage in your life?
The precognition I have to manage. That's not easy. To know when things are going to happen before they happen is really hard. And actually, members of the group helped me while I was dealing with. How much time do we have? I can share that story quickly.
Yeah, sure. We have time.
Okay. I've had a couple of things where I have had dreams while something was going on. One thing was I lived near a lake for a short time, and I started to dream that I was hovering above water, and this water was rushing forward. And this man, it's an Asian man, sees me, and he's reaching up for me, and he's with his wife. He's panicked, and I can feel his feelings. He's trying to grab his wife. He's trying to grab me. I'm thinking maybe I can hand him this branch. And as he passes, he's in this rush of water. His hands go through my hands. And there's a look of shock on his face. And he shakes his head, no. And he goes with her. I woke up, and as we often do with dreams, right? If we're dreaming about water, perhaps the toilet's overflowing, or perhaps the lake is, there's something that's affecting your dream life, some outside source. However, nothing's wrong. I get up, the lake is smooth and calm, and I'm crying because I felt this man die. But I turn on TV, and that tsunami had hit Japan. And I realized that I was there to help, and I didn't know how. I just didn't. Another incident, I was standing or maybe floating way high above, and there are beings behind me. And they are pointing toward this snowy mountain, and they're saying, look, like panicked look. And so I look, and the snow starts to come down. It's an avalanche, and it comes and is burying part of the town and covering this hotel. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this, but this is haunting me now. So I wake up, and again, as last time, I find out that in Italy, there was this avalanche, that this hotel is crushed. And I'm thinking, well, why do I know about this? What difference does it make? But all through the day, sorry, there was a pop-up. All through the day, I am hearing a woman screaming, and I can see flashes of her and some children, and she is ushering them into a bathroom. So even though snow is pushed in part of the wall, it's a safe spot. And I can see rescuers, but I mean, I'm praying for them, but I really don't know why am I involved in this? Doesn't make any sense. And this goes on for a couple days. What am I supposed to do? But I'd reached out to my group, and a couple people said, pray to the rescuers. Maybe that's your job. So I did. So I started like sending out, and I'm also a Reiki master. So I had 10 years of experience with this energy. And so I'm sending out this energy to these rescuers. And this small little blip then the next day is these rescuers found a woman and some children in this hotel. So did I make a difference? Did I do that? Is it coincidence? I don't know. But there are facts that connect it to reality. And I think, okay, that's important. And so is that the thing I was supposed to do when I came back? I'm still here though. So there must be something else. Otherwise I wouldn't be here being interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, I was starting to think like, okay, are you supposed to contact somebody? But maybe the way you did it energetically is even faster and works probably better. Yeah,
so that has been the thing, and which is really part of the reason where my life, I feel very strongly that I'm supposed to have this prayer life, and how important it is, whether you're thinking about it as prayer or intention, whatever it is, you're throwing it out there. And you're using good within you to make change and to help others. And so that is the direction my life is going as a spiritual person now.
Do you have a religious background? And if so or not, did that make any difference in it?
I really didn't. I mean, we were raised Catholic, but we weren't Catholic. We didn't practice. I do have a Catholic background. Actually, I have a medal that turned gold by itself. I have a sterling silver rosary, which I keep with me, which turned gold by itself. So I am what a mentor once called a pick and choose Catholic. So there are things I agree with, there are things I don't. Anything that resonates with me spiritually, I lean into. Anything that doesn't, that feels antiquated and out of alignment, I lean away from. So that's the answer to the question. I'm Catholic, but,
only on Sundays.
Yeah, no, every day. I do listen to the Mass. I do pray my rosary, because it's part of praying my rosary is a way to distract my ego. If I use my 5 senses to distract my physicalness, it's easier to connect with the all of everything, which I can do easily. But so if anything, that's the answer to the question. And lean toward Catholicism. Mm-hmm.
What do you think inspires you the most about these experiences?
The experiences after the NDEs themselves, or
Sure,
what's happened after?
I mean, just in general, I would say, what makes you get up in the morning every day and live life to the fullest due to the experiences?
Yeah, what gets me up every day is knowing that I am responsible, that I've agreed to do something that I don't remember, but I have to do that thing. Mm-hmm. I have to. Mm-hmm. I'm compelled to be of service. And that's what gets me going.
In your group, do you ever get people that say, hey, I just had an NDE a week ago or a month ago, and I'm having difficulty processing all of this? Do you ever see that? And if so, how would you give them advice?
I do see that a lot. Absolutely. Especially people, they have a hard time getting people to believe them or understand them. And usually I will start by asking them, are you having these symptoms? Are you, have you noticed that you're feeling people's feelings and feeling them more deeply than you did before? Are you having trouble with electromagnetic fields? Is your watch Can you wear a watch? Is your phone going off and on? Is your computer acting up? Are things around you happening? Those are really the two of the major ones, but there's a long list that I can't think of it the second, but you can look them up at IANS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies. They have the list of symptoms of someone who's had an NDE, but also part of it is the depression. A lot of people suffer from depression, which is understandable. It's like going to Disney World and then being sent back to hell. So it's a tough pill to swallow to come back here. So yeah. That's tough.
I'm glad you went there, because I was going there, and you had mentioned earlier that, you long for going home. Is that an after effect that you have to deal with every day, that you're just
That is an after effect. That's a serious after effect. I would actually say most of the NDEers are homesick, and home with a capital H. We long to be home. But we chose to come here. We chose to individuate from the all of everything. We are, and it's pouring here, so if you can hear me. We chose to singularly co-create our existence here. That's just part of the game. It's just what we do. But we long to be back home. The problem with being back home is we can no longer manipulate matter and make things and do things in a world that's linear time and has objects that we can move around. So we lose that.
Do you think it's a longing to be there because it's so awesome there? Or is it you want to be there because it's so terrible here?
You want to be there because it's so awesome there. Because it is a connectedness of love and home. It's home. I can't explain it. It's just, and I've heard people say it's beyond words. It is beyond words. It's home. And so coming back here, and I did ask about a hell, and right before I came back, and what I heard was Earth is as close to a hell as you'll ever get. And it is. It's hard. It's hard here, but we have fun while we're here, and we do fun things. But there are hard things going on, and it makes it difficult. There's a balance of what's fun and bad.
I thought I heard you say earlier in the podcast that you don't believe in reincarnation, but I want to get your take on what's the point of us coming here?
Well, that's two different things. Yeah. So when I tried to end my life, I truly never occurred to me that I didn't think we existed in the afterlife. So I certainly didn't believe in reincarnation. But that sentence that said, this is your last time here, while I was on the other side, haunted me, because I thought, the last time here, was I here before? What is that? And, so I can't deny reincarnation. And I have heard some compelling stories that I also can't deny. So do I believe it? I kind of have to. Because I got it from a really good source that I had been here before, obviously. And this is my last time.
So why do you think we keep coming back here?
That's debatable. Some people think that we come here to learn a lesson. That's not my chain of thought. My feeling is we come here as co-creators. We're sparks of the whole. And we want to co-create in this realm of linear time our own individuated experience away from the all of everything. We want our own experience. And I often refer to it as a game, but then I give the disclaimer, it's a game. I didn't say it was a fun game. I just said it was a game. But other people have their reasoning. And in my group, we talk about that. And we all agree to accept other people's opinions in that group. So I've heard other thought processes on that. I don't know. I just think we're here to have an experience and to be individuated from the whole.
Do you see it pretty commonly in your page that people will come and say, such and such person in my life has passed recently, a relative, a loved one, and I'm here because I want to, learn more about the afterlife, and I'm hoping that they still are carrying on.
Absolutely. I would say about 40% of our members have lost someone. They're looking for reassurance, a sign. My comment to them typically is, you have to remember that your loved one is not lost. We are. We're the ones walking around with earthly amnesia. We don't remember home. For them, there's no linear time, so it may feel like it's been forever since you've seen them. But when you do see them, for them, it will be like a second. It won't matter. But then I also tell them it's harder for people, spirits on the other side, to move matter. So I encourage them to watch for signs, lightweight things, feathers, coins, birds, butterflies, anything that repeats itself. Or if a loved one comes in a dream, pay attention, write it down. It's important because on that, our dream state is as close to as we get to the other side, and we are able to connect to that other side in our dreams. We're not weighted down by ego and worry. We're freer then. And I encourage listeners to watch for signs.
That's great. All right. Well, I'm going to switch gears on you here.
Okay.
Do you have a website or a book or anything like that?
Right. So as you mentioned, my website is the Near-Death Experience and the Afterlife. Feel free to join, who's ever listening. I'm also working on a book, which I have been dragging my feet on, which is called I Just Came Back for the Cookies. And that I hope I will be done with by the end of the year. I'm close. I'm very close
that's great.
to it. Yeah.
Do you have any other projects that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Not right now. I mean, I'm an artist, but I have no reason to share my work, or I can't think of anything offhand. Can you think of something that maybe I said and I've now forgotten?
No, I just, sometimes people may have something and they may want to share or.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. In my near-death experience site, I've had a number of people who have joined not because they've lost someone or because they've had an NDE, but because they're thinking about ending their life. And they're trying to check out to see if anybody tells them that there's something after, or they're worried about a hell. So my message to those people, and there have been many, is that you're here for a reason. You're absolutely here for a reason. And if you try to end your life, there's an excellent chance that you will fail and you won't come out the way I did. You'll end up permanently disabled in a vegetative state, who knows what, or chances are you'll have to come back and do it all again. So stay on your path. I know how hard life is, so hard, but you chose to be here and you'll get over this hump. So hang in there. Hang in there. That's my disclaimer. Ending your life is a very bad idea.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
All right. Before we finish here, do you have one last positive message that you can share with everybody?
Oh, wow. You really put me on the spot. Mm-hmm. I do have a positive message. The thing where I feel like I have to send energy out or pray for people, that is so important. And there seems to be a growing indifference in our society, where people are sort of just turning away and pushing things aside and focusing on themselves. But to send that love energy out to people is important. Conversely, if you believe prayer and energy affects people, so does saying something negative. So when someone cuts you off in traffic, that's also a prayer. Whatever you thought, whatever you said is also a prayer. So stay positive, people. Stay positive. Don't engage fear.
Well, thank you for that message. And
yes,
Mary,
thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate you. I wish you the best and have a great evening.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.